A beautiful flower so dangerous, the government can arrest you for growing it. A common garden plant that can literally tear your house in half, making it worthless. A simple barrel to catch rainwater that, in some places, is a federal crime. These aren't stories from fiction. These are the secrets of the world's most forbidden gardens. So why are these seemingly innocent plants and gardening styles banned? Why do we go to such extreme lengths to control the plants around us? The edible front lawn picture. The perfect suburban street, with its perfectly aligned houses, each fronted by a carpet of lush, green grass. Now, imagine one of those lawns replaced with rows of tomatoes and corn, an act that in some communities can get you fined and threatened with legal action, pitting neighbor against neighbor. For decades, the rule of suburbia was conformity, and at the heart of it all was the lawn a neat, orderly, and entirely unproductive status symbol. To dig it up for a garden was seen as a violation, a messy rebellion against the neighborhood's carefully curated aesthetic. The argument was always about property values, a fear that sprawling squash vines would look chaotic. But for a growing number of people, especially in food deserts, a front yard garden is not a political statement, it is a practical solution. Turning a resource-hungry patch of grass into a source of fresh food. Yet, across the United States and Canada, legal battles are still fought over this simple right. Many planned communities have outright bans, viewing a vegetable patch not as a garden, but as a nuisance. But a dispute with your neighbors is nothing compared to a plant that can wage a war on your home's foundation, a war you can never win. The unstoppable bamboo forest. It often starts with a desire for a fast-growing privacy screen, a touch of zen in the backyard. The tall, graceful stalks of bamboo whisper in the wind, creating a tranquil oasis. But beneath the soil, an invasion is quietly underway, an army that no fence can stop. Not all bamboo is a monster. The well-behaved, clumping varieties grow in a predictable circle. The outlaw is its aggressive cousin, running bamboo. Its root system, made of tough, spear-like rhizomes, can travel over 30 feet a year, silently expanding its territory. These underground runners do not care about property lines, ruining friendships over a simple fence. They punch through asphalt driveways, crack foundations, and surface in a neighbor's pristine lawn, sometimes dozens of feet away. Eradicating it is a nightmare, as a single piece of root left behind can regrow an entire forest. The damage became so widespread that towns across the country passed ordinances banning it or requiring it to be caged within deep, impenetrable barriers. It's a terrifying lesson in containment. But while bamboo's rhizomes can't be stopped by a fence, some gardeners are hiding their forbidden plants where no one would ever think to look, high above the city streets. The rooftop hive. High above the noise of traffic and crowds, a different kind of city is buzzing with life. On tar paper roofs and forgotten balconies, a secret world of flowers and herbs thrives. At the center of it is a simple wooden box, home to 50,000 tiny rebels, a colony of honeybees. The urban beekeeping movement has quietly grown into a global phenomenon. In a world of concrete and steel, a rooftop hive is a powerful connection to the natural world. These bees pollinate city parks and community gardens, increasing the yield of fruits and vegetables, all while producing jars of intensely local honey that tastes like a single neighborhood in a single season. But to many city councils and nervous neighbors, a hive is not a symbol of nature, it is a liability. The fear of swarms and anaphylactic shock has led to strict regulations or outright bans in cities from Europe to Australia. Beekeepers are often forced to operate in a legal gray area, keeping their hives hidden, their hobby a well-kept secret. They become guardians of a forbidden ecosystem. But the biggest threat from these urban hives isn't the bees themselves. It's what happens when a gardener cultivates something whose danger isn't a sting, but a poison so potent a single seed can be lethal. The poison garden. It stands tall in the back of the garden, with deep red, star-shaped leaves and strange, spiky seed pods. To an unsuspecting eye, the castor bean plant is a stunning ornamental, a piece of the tropics brought home. But within its beautifully modeled seeds hides one of the most lethal toxins known to science. This is the paradox of the poison garden, a collection of plants that are both breathtakingly beautiful and terrifyingly potent. For centuries, gardeners have cultivated them for their striking flowers, often unaware of the power they hold. The delicate, bell-shaped blooms of foxglove contain a compound that can stop a heart, the hooded flowers of monkshood, a fast-acting poison. It is this hidden danger that has led to their banishment from public spaces. You will not find oleander lining playgrounds or rosary peas near a school fence, as the risk of a single child's mistake is simply too high. For the home gardener, growing them is a choice to live alongside a quiet, beautiful threat, an understanding that some of nature's creations demand our utmost respect. But there's a plant out there whose threat isn't a fast-acting poison, but a slow, relentless destruction that can cost you your life's savings and leave you trapped in a home you can't sell. The plant that eats houses. It was first introduced to the West as an elegant ornamental, admired for its heart-shaped leaves and sprays of white flowers. Victorian gardeners planted it with pride, having no idea what they were unleashing. Today, in countries like the United Kingdom, discovering this single plant in your garden can make your entire property worthless. Japanese knotweed is a force of nature unlike any other. Its root system is vast and relentless, and its new shoots have the strength to exploit any weakness. They grow through asphalt driveways, invade drainage pipes, and push their way up through concrete floors and between the cracks in brick walls. Getting rid of it is a Herculean task. A tiny root fragment, no bigger than a fingernail, can sprout a new colony. Professional eradication can take years of chemical treatment and cost tens of thousands of dollars, trapping homeowners in a financial nightmare. The problem is so severe in Great Britain that laws were passed making it an offense to allow knotweed to spread. Banks will often refuse mortgages on infested properties. It is a battle fought inch by inch against an enemy in the soil beneath our feet. But some invasive species don't need soil to conquer a landscape. They wage their war on the open water. The floating menace. It floats gracefully on the surface, a lush green rosette of leaves with a spike of breathtaking lilac flowers. At first glance, the water hyacinth is the jewel of any water garden, a picture of tranquility. But this beauty is a mask for one of the most aggressive and destructive plants on the planet. Originally from the Amazon basin, the water hyacinth has an astonishing ability to reproduce. Under ideal conditions, a population can double in size in less than 2 weeks, forming vast, dense, floating mats that can be several feet thick. This living blanket is an ecological death sentence. It blocks all sunlight from reaching the water below, killing native plants and starving the water of oxygen, causing fish populations to crash. The thick mats prevent local people from fishing or using boats for transportation, shutting down entire economies that depend on the waterway. For these reasons, it is now banned in dozens of countries, from the southern United States to Australia and throughout Africa, where a constant battle is waged to keep rivers clear. The water hyacinth is outlawed for the devastation it causes all by itself. But what happens when a plant is banned not for what it does to the environment, but for what it does to us? The forbidden flower. Its petals are as delicate as crumpled silk, blooming in shades of soft pink, white, and deep crimson. After the flower fades, it leaves behind a sculptural seed pod, a favorite in dried arrangements. This is Papaver somniferum, the opium poppy, arguably the most controversial flower a person can grow. No other plant holds such a powerful place in human history. From the milky sap of its unripe seed pod, we derive both miraculous relief and profound misery. It is the source of morphine and codeine, cornerstone painkillers that have eased suffering for millions. It is also the origin of heroin, a narcotic that has destroyed lives and fueled criminal empires. This dual nature has led to a web of complex laws. In the United States, growing the flower for its beauty is generally tolerated. But cultivating it to produce narcotics is a serious federal crime. In other nations, any unauthorized cultivation is met with severe penalties. To plant this flower is to cultivate a living piece of history, a symbol of our eternal struggle with pain and control. The poppy's threat is a powerful, dangerous chemistry. But sometimes, a plant's danger is far more subtle, a beloved garden favorite that secretly undermines the very ecosystem it's meant to attract. The deceptive beauty. It is the dream of every wildlife gardener, a single shrub with long arching wands of purple flowers, absolutely covered in fluttering butterflies. For generations, the butterfly bush has been sold as a must-have for any pollinator garden. Yet, in a cruel twist of nature, this beautiful plant might be doing more harm than good. Scientists call it an ecological trap. The bush produces huge amounts of nectar, which adult butterflies love. It is like a candy store, drawing them in from all over the neighborhood. But the plant's leaves are inedible to the caterpillars of native butterflies, like the monarch. The adult butterflies waste precious time and energy on a plant that offers nothing to their young, resulting in you unintentionally starving the very creatures you are trying to save. The irony is that a plant sold to help butterflies could be contributing to their decline. Worse, the original varieties are highly invasive, escaping gardens and crowding out the native flora caterpillars truly need. This is why states like Oregon have banned its sale. It is a reminder that good intentions are not always enough. But sometimes the fight is not about complex ecology. It's about a clash between two very different ideas of beauty. The prairie and the suburbs. On one side of the fence is a familiar sight, a neat, green lawn mown to a uniform height of 3 inches. On the other is something else entirely, a miniature meadow of wildflowers and native grasses, buzzing with life. One is considered the neighborhood ideal, the other is often illegal. Across North America, towns have long enforced weed ordinances. These rules, born from a desire for tidiness, often state that any vegetation over 8 to 10 inches is a violation. They were written for a time when a well-kept lawn was a sign of a good citizen, but today these outdated laws are clashing with a movement to rewild our yards. Gardeners are planting native meadows to provide habitat for struggling pollinators. To the gardener, it is a living ecosystem, but to a city inspector or a disgruntled neighbor, it is just a patch of overgrown weeds. Countless homeowners have faced fines and court orders to mow down their carefully curated prairies, all because they do not fit a 50-year-old definition of what a yard should be. It is a battle over the surface of the land, a fight to redefine beauty. Some forbidden styles, however, hide their revolutionary secrets not in plain sight, but buried deep within the earth. The buried wood garden. It looks like a long, lumpy burial mound in the middle of a vegetable patch, a strange and untidy hump of earth. It violates the clean, flat lines of a traditional garden, but this messiness is a disguise for an ancient and incredibly clever secret. This is Hügelkultur, a German word for hill culture. The technique is simple. Build a garden bed by first making a pile of old, rotting logs, branches, and leaves, then covering it all with compost and soil. As the wood decays over years, it becomes a giant, spongy reservoir, creating its own irrigation and fertilizer. It turns useless wood waste into a thriving, long-lasting garden that rarely needs watering. But in our modern world, this old-world wisdom is often misunderstood. Some homeowner associations ban them for their untidy appearance. In dry, fire-prone regions, they are sometimes restricted, with officials fearing the buried wood could become a hidden fire hazard. It is a way of gardening that reclaims waste on your own land. But some gardeners take this spirit of reclamation a step further, operating under the cover of darkness to transform land that is not theirs. The Midnight Planters. The only light comes from a distant street lamp as a small team works quickly and quietly. They are not vandals or thieves. Their tools are trowels and their contraband is a bag full of sunflower seeds and marigolds. This is guerrilla gardening, an act of horticultural disobedience. By definition, it is illegal. It is the cultivation of land that you do not own a neglected traffic median, a forgotten city planter, or a vacant lot choked with weeds. To the law, it can be considered trespass or vandalism, a violation of property rights no matter how good the intention. But to the people who do it, it is a peaceful protest against urban decay and bureaucratic neglect. They see these forgotten patches of dirt not as someone's property, but as a shared community space waiting for life. It is their way of saying, if you will not make our city beautiful, we will. They create pockets of biodiversity in the concrete jungle, often anonymously. Their reward seeing flowers bloom where there was once only trash. This movement challenges who is allowed to plant in our shared spaces. But it raises a related and just as controversial question. If planting is forbidden, what about harvesting? The urban forager. A woman plucks a handful of ripe mulberries from a tree growing in a city park. To her, it is a simple, wholesome act, a free snack provided by nature. But to the city, she might be a thief, breaking a law she does not even know exists. Foraging for wild food is an ancient human practice, but in the modern world, it exists in a legal maze. Many towns, state parks, and conservation areas have strict rules that forbid the removal of any plant material. These laws are often intended to protect the ecosystem from being stripped bare by overharvesting, ensuring enough is left for wildlife. There is also the issue of liability. Officials worry that if someone gets sick from a misidentified mushroom, the city could be held responsible. It is easier to ban the practice than to manage the risk. Yet, as people seek to rediscover traditional skills, these rules are being challenged. It is a fundamental conflict over who truly owns the bounty of nature when it grows in our shared spaces. But one of the most significant environmental bans has nothing to do with what we take from the park. It's about what we buy at the store and the unseen destruction it causes thousands of miles away. The bog in a bag. Every gardener knows the feel of it. Light, fluffy, and rich brown. It is the foundation of countless container gardens and seed, starting mixes sold in every garden center. But this seemingly miraculous material, peat moss, has a dark secret that has led the United Kingdom to ban its sale. Peat moss is not soil. It is the partially decomposed remains of sphagnum moss, harvested from ancient ecosystems called peat bogs. These unique wetlands take thousands of years to form, and to harvest the peat, they are drained and scraped away. The environmental cost is immense. Peat bogs store more than twice the carbon of all the world's forests combined. When they are harvested, that carbon is released into the atmosphere. The unique wildlife that depends on the bogs is also lost. So, the innocent act of filling a flower pot is directly linked to the destruction of a fragile ecosystem far away. Recognizing this, England banned peat sales for amateur gardeners in 2024, but the rest of the world has been slower to act. This battle protects a silent landscape most of us will never see. Which brings us to a final conflict over something even more universal, the very rain that falls from the sky. The rain catchers. There are few acts more natural than setting out a barrel to capture the rain that falls on a roof. It is a timeless ritual of self-sufficiency, a partnership between a home and the heavens. Yet, for decades, in some of the driest parts of the world, this simple act was considered a form of theft. The reason lies buried in over 150 years of legal precedent. In arid regions like the American West, a complex system of prior appropriation water rights was established, dictating that every drop of water in a river basin from the mightiest river to the smallest raindrop already belongs to someone downstream. Under these old, strict interpretations, the rain that lands on your property is not truly yours. It is merely passing through on its way to a senior rights holder, perhaps a farm or a city miles away. States like Colorado and Utah historically enforced severe restrictions, viewing a rain barrel as an illegal diversion of resources. While many of these laws have recently been relaxed to allow for limited collection, they reveal a profound truth about human control. So the next time you look at a simple garden, a manicured lawn, or even a single flower pot, remember what you saw here. It is never just about the plants. It's a battleground of control, freedom, ecology, and law. The most revolutionary act might just be what you choose to plant or what you choose to uproot. We're always digging into the hidden rules and surprising stories that shape our world. If you want to join us for the next investigation, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to help us grow.